Our data is available. Our data is transparent. In fact, Dr. Birx has talked multiple times about how Florida has the absolute best data. So any insinuation otherwise is just typical partisan narrative trying to be spun. And part of the reason is that because you got a lot of people in your profession who waxed poetically for weeks and weeks about how Florida was going to be just like New York. Wait 2 weeks, Florida's going to be next. Just like Italy, wait 2 weeks. Well, hell, we're 8 weeks away from that, and it hasn't happened. Not only do we have a lower death rate, well, we have way lower deaths generally. We have a lower death rate than the Acela Corridor, D.C., everyone up there. We have a lower death rate than the Midwest, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. But even in our region, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida has the lower death rate. And I was the #1 landing spot from tens of thousands of people leaving the #1 hot zone in the world to come to my state. So we've succeeded, and I think that people just don't want to recognize it because it challenges their narrative, it challenges their assumption. So they got to try to find a boogeyman. Maybe it's that there are black helicopters circling the Department of Health. If you believe that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you.
Last question.
All right, yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Spann Report podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Spann. This is episode number 302 of the report. And what we just got finished listening to was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis asserting that Florida was doing well when it came to coronavirus cases and pretty much bragging on it, as a matter of fact. But that's not exactly what's happening in Florida right now. You know what I'm saying? That's not exactly what's going on down there. They're having some issues down there in Florida as it concerns to the coronavirus as it stands right now. But you know what? They don't care about none of that. They don't care about none of that shit, especially like factual information. They kind of, let's just say, intellectually challenged when it comes to that, right? But yo, we got some stuff we're gonna talk about. We're gonna get into that much later in the show. But yo, man, what's going on with y'all? It's the Spann Report podcast, episode 302, like I just said before. And yo, man, we're going to get into this on this 4th of July weekend. This 4th of July, we actually recording this live here on the 4th of July. Shout out to everybody who's actually participating in these 4th of July celebrations and whatnot. I know it's not exactly the coolest thing in the world to admit that you're doing, right? Right. So, like, I remember I called home yesterday. I called home to my family in Chicago yesterday, and I was asking them what they were going to be doing today. And my aunt was like, yo, well, we're not celebrating the 4th. But I am going to be like barbecuing and shit. You know what I'm saying? And the tripped out part about the whole thing about celebrating the 4th or whatever, like truthfully speaking, man, no matter what, get it how you live, man. Like, I just enjoy the time off of work more than anything else. Like, I got yesterday off because the holiday fell on a Saturday. So they gave me yesterday off and shit. I'm like, shit, no matter if I was celebrating or not, nigga, I just got to do the chance to do whatever the fuck it was I needed to do. So I was cool with that, right? But it's kind of weird, man. It's kind of funny how like now like the idea of celebrating the 4th is anathema to so many people now, right? I know we got Juneteenth cracking this year. Hopefully we can get Juneteenth cracking every year. That way my birthday could be like Juneteenth Eve and shit, you know what I'm saying? But yo, man, that's what it is, man. People out here, they're gonna be grilling, man. They're gonna be trying to get in touch. You know, some people are trying to be responsible in their celebrations. Some people are trying to get with family, although they're like, you know, it's not necessarily recommended, especially when you got people coming in from out of town. You don't know who they've been around, what they've been doing, this, that, and the other. But, you know, it's still a thing where people like have this want and this need to be around each other. And so like if you're going to be, celebrating the 4th of July this weekend, man, celebrating today, doing the fireworks and everything, only thing I can really ask a nigga to do is to like do the shit responsibly, man. Like have your mask on, social distancing, like those fireworks at a safe distance and shit. Don't have the kids out there trying to light fireworks and we see some kid in the fucking hospital because he had an M80 in his hand or something like that, man. So, yo, man, just do that shit responsibly, real talk. But yo, before we get into everything Spann Report related, I got to let you guys know how to get in touch with us over here at the Spann Report podcast and let your voice be heard. You can go ahead and hit up the hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave us those voicemail messages. And of course, those messages will get read here and replied to live here on the show. I'm sorry, not read here, but listen to. And if you're calling the show here live, you can, chop it up with your man Spann here live while we're doing the show. So if you're watching live here on Facebook and or YouTube, you can hit up the hotline, area code 313-288-0485. You can also email us here, feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead, leave us those emails, and those emails will get read here and reply to here live on the show. We got a couple emails to reply to here today, so we're going to do that here on the show. Feedback@thespannreport.com is how you do that. Also, hit me up on Twitter and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So you can go ahead, follow me there, chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week, man. We be talking shit on these Facebook and Twitter streets, man. I'm sorry, the Instagram and Twitter streets. You can also hit up our website at www.thespannreport.com. You can go there, watch replays of the show. You can vote in the polls when we put those polls up. You can donate to the show as often as you like, as much as you like. And of course, we really do appreciate every dime over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network, man. Real talk. And for those of you who are prone to leave us reviews, man, please do that. 5 stars preferably. The 5-star reviews are the ones that get right here live on the show. We really do appreciate everybody who goes about the business of doing that. As a matter of fact, it's not just iTunes and Stitcher. Just found out recently that if you're listening to the show via Podcast Addict, you can leave a review on Podcast Addict, and we'll read those 5-star reviews here live on the show. As a matter of fact, we got a 5-star review on Podcast Addict, and that's why I'm going to talk about Podcast Addict today. But yeah, man, for those of you who are going to do that, 5 stars is how you help us out, man. It really does help the show immensely. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network, man. Real talk. And it doesn't cost you nothing. So, man, we really do appreciate that, man. But yeah, like I said, we do have a review on Podcast Addict. So let me go ahead and pull this up so we can talk about it and we can thank those people who gave us a review. Let me see, because I very seldom use Podcast Addict, but I use it for like when I'm doing I'm listening to premium shows. And I'm typing in Podcast Addict. Damn it, Spann. Oh man. All right. So here we go. This is our 5-star review that we got. And this one comes from Peanut Man 87. It says it's a 5-star review. Says one of the best podcasts out, honest, informative, funny, and gives a good dose of realness that is missing. So, yo, man, shout out to Peanut Man 87, man. Really do appreciate that review, man. It does help us immensely here, and I appreciate your continued listenership and your continued support, man. Real talk. Thank you so much for that 5-star review, man. Real talk. But we also do have some emails. Now, we've had, I know last week we had Rod and Karen from the Black Guy Who Tips was on the show last week. And shout out to Rod and Karen for coming through and gracing us with their presence on the show last week, man. It was very much appreciated, man. We always a good time with Rod and Karen, man. I love their show. One of my favorite podcasts, if not my favorite podcast to listen to other than my own and shit, right? But, yo, man, we got some emails. So let me go ahead and pull up these emails and respond to these emails here live here on the show. So, we got the first email here. This comes from Reggie writing in. Reggie writes in and says, Spann, my nigga, Rod and Karen are funny as hell, and I also appreciate the nuance they brought to the discussion surrounding Camille Cosby. You should definitely have them on the show more often. Reggie. You know what, man? I would love to have Rod and Karen on the show more often, but check this out, man. Check out this show. If you like real talk, if you're listening to me, like check out Rod and Karen show. Check out the Black Guy Who Tips podcast. They do a show 5 days a week. Now, your man Spann only does a show once a week, man. They do a show 5 days a week. And then on top of that, they got other shows. Like they got, premium content shows where like they do movie reviews and they do television show reviews. They've got cooking shows. Rod has an interview show that he does. So like there's a lot of content over there that you can go over there and check out, man. Like I said, one of my favorite podcasts. I listen to them every day. And, that's part of the reason why it's I very seldom ask them to come on so often is because they're busy, man. Like those some busy folks, man. Not only do they do their show 5 days a week, but then they, like I said, the premium shows that they do, and then also because I think they're dope and other people think they're dope. They're on other people's shows as well. So those are some hardworking folks. And I appreciated them coming through and spending that time with us here at the Spann Report podcast, man. But yo, definitely whenever I can have them on, I will try to have them on, man. Real talk. They're all good with me. And I'm a big fan of their show, man. Real talk. We got another email here. This comes from someone writes in by the name, what's it? This looks like Beecher. Okay. Beecher writes in to say, I know you're not the biggest fan of the Trump administration, but one would think that you could see the logic in not tearing down the statues of Confederate generals and monuments. Those men were still Americans, and as wrong as they might have been, they thought they were fighting for what was right for the country. Donald Trump understands this, and it's why, as an independent voter, I support his stance on protecting those statues and monuments and not renaming military bases. America does indeed have a dark history, but we cannot pretend those things didn't happen or we're doomed to repeat it. Use those statues and monuments to learn about the history of this nation, all of its ugly parts too. We can't erase that because it's offensive to our current sensibilities. Now, I got this email earlier this week, and I thought it was very interesting that one that, you know, of all of the things to like be a like to, if you're an independent voter and you think that like Donald Trump holding his stance about the Confederate flag is like the hill to die on, I thought that was kind of interesting. But here's the thing, right? So, like, because you talk about the need for us to preserve the history of this nation and to learn from it and this, that, and the other. And I'm very big, like kind of a history buff. I watch a lot of historical documentaries. I'm reading a lot of books on a lot of historical things, man, to kind of bring a lot of the things that are happening now into perspective. Because I do believe that, you know, those who do not learn from their history are doomed to repeat it. And oftentimes, even if you're aware of the history, that doesn't mean that everybody else is, and the history tends to repeat itself anyway. But one of the things I thought was very interesting is this last part where you said America does indeed have a dark history, but we cannot pretend that those things didn't happen or we're doomed to repeat it. Use those statues and monuments to learn about the history of this nation, all of its ugly parts too. We can't erase that because it's offensive to our current sensibilities. Now, interestingly enough, a lot of these Confederate monuments, these Confederate statues that have been erected throughout the nation, are indeed an attempt to erase the history of this nation. That's the irony of the entire thing. The United Daughters of the Confederacy erected a lot of those monuments in an attempt to kind of raise up the morale of these ex-Confederate soldiers who lost a fucking war, right? Who lost a war that they, you know, they were fighting for. Like, they were fighting for the right to keep niggas in chains, right? They were fighting for the idea that they can keep people subjugated and working for free in perpetuity for their benefit, right? This is what they were fighting for. As much as they like to try to act as though that wasn't the reason, this is what they were fighting for, right? And so in losing a war, somehow we've allowed for the losing side to be seen as heroes by those who would, you know, venerate them for fighting for their cause. Right now, the interesting thing about it is the building of these statues is actually an attempt to erase the history that happened during the Civil War. It's a rewriting of the history. You as opposed to seeing these people as traitors to this nation, as people who committed treason against this nation, we look at them and they have monuments in this country as heroes. Name another country where that happens. Name another country where the losers of a war are have monuments to their memory and their honor sprinkled across the country that they attacked. Think about that for a second. The United Daughters of the Confederacy tried to rewrite the history of this nation. And this is part of the reason why you have these statues and monuments and everything else, right? The other part about that is not only was it the erection of the monuments and the statues that are happening that were erected across the country, this didn't happen immediately after the Civil War. This happened like as some of the older soldiers of the Confederacy were starting to die off. And as some of the younger people were getting disconnected from what the Confederacy was and what the Old South was. So in an attempt to try to have some connection to the old principles that they wanted to eschew, this is how we got the Confederate monuments, the Confederate statues, and also Confederate catechism, also Confederate like social clubs. We had Confederate curriculums, right? So there was an entire curriculum designed to paint the South in a better light when it came to their cause and when it came to their losing the Civil War. So there was an exerted effort, right? There was an exerted effort to get the Confederacy to be seen in a better light. Their statues, their monuments, their names on United States military bases to this day is an attempt to erase the history that they already had that happened. It was an attempt to reframe it. This is how you get shit like the Lost Cause, where you got a whole swaths of people who believe that the Confederate flag today stands for Southern heritage and Southern pride, and they just it has such a venerable meaning for them, right? It's because from the time they were born, well, a lot of these folks now, they've been indoctrinated with that lost cause ideology. And that lost cause ideology was an attempt to erase the actual history of what happened, right? And then you think about it, the Confederacy only lasted for like 4 years. Like, this podcast is lasted longer than the Confederacy. Does that mean I get a fucking statue? Does your man Spann get like a statue with a monument and like me like yelling into a microphone and shit because my podcast has lasted twice as long as the fucking Confederacy? Like, how much history, how much heritage is there? You know, when you talk about this is my Southern heritage, it was 4 years, bro, and they lost. So when Donald Trump talks about conserving these things, and we need these things for history. Hey, we can learn shit through books, man. We can learn things through documentaries. We can learn things through listening to people who came before us. But we don't need to have statues in like high honorable places in order to learn about the treasonous motherfuckers who lost that Civil War. We don't need no statues for that. We don't need to honor them in that way. So Donald Trump knows exactly what he's doing. He's stirring up the grievances of poor white Southern people who will tend to vote on a cultural issue as opposed to what he's doing for them economically. Because truthfully speaking, a lot of them are also suffering economically because of what this president has done. So Donald Trump knows what he's doing. He knows exactly how to play to that base. He knows exactly how to antagonize the people who he knows probably won't vote for him. This is why he's talking about Black Lives Matter being a hate group, but he's venerating the Confederacy, those who would keep Black people subjugated and those who would have kept Black people as slaves to this day had they won the Civil War. Donald Trump knows exactly what he's doing. And so, for you to write in here talking about like erasing history, it's not about erasing history. The United Daughters of the Confederacy and their ancillary groups have already attempted to try to rewrite the history of the United States of America by giving us this lost cause bullshit that people could, that people right now consider their heritage. It's bullshit. And so, hope I answered that thoroughly. But I appreciate you writing in. And maybe I'll hear from you again soon, right? Real talk. But man, that's our listener feedback. That's what we got for this week. I got a couple random thoughts, man. I got a couple random thoughts that I had. The week has been kind of busy, and so there's sometimes some things come to mind, and I just kind of want to share them with you guys, see what you guys think about this shit. And first random thought I got right now, man, is Hamilton, right? When we're talking about history and stuff like that, I tried to watch Hamilton last night. Me and the wife, we was watching Disney Plus and whatnot. Tried to watch Hamilton, and I'm gonna tell y'all right now, your man Spann is a goddamn uncultured swine. So I tried, man. I swear I tried to watch Hamilton last night, and I say I tried because it wasn't exactly an easy watch. Now, I'm not necessarily like the biggest fan of musicals and stuff. Like, it's just not really my thing. You know what I'm saying? But I kept hearing great things about Hamilton. It's got like a hip hop vibe to it, man. It's got people of color, like interspersed it, like telling the story of this American hero and everything. And I was like, yo, man, of course I never was going to I just never thought I was going to find myself like on Broadway and shit, going to see like a play or nothing like that. Nothing against Broadway or anything. I just never saw myself just like getting up and going to do that. Like that was something that I wanted to do. But I kept hearing great things about Hamilton. And so when I found out that Hamilton was going to be on Disney Plus, I tried to watch it and I'm like, shit, man, what they saying? Right? What they saying? Because a lot of the dialogue was like it was in like they was rapping. Like they was rapping, like they was dropping some high 16s all over the place. And here's the thing about rap. As much as I do like rap, sometimes one of the things about rap is that like, yo, what the fuck did he just say? And then you rewind the shit to get what he said. And then maybe there's a double meaning behind what he said. And so you like, yo, man, rewind that. But like, yo, you trying to watch a story. So like, how many times can you watch the story while rewinding some shit? You know what I'm saying? And so you got that going on. And then on top of that, the shit was 2 hours and 40 minutes long, man. I don't know if I could, like that 2 hours and 40 minutes could have easily turned into 4 hours for your man Spann. Cause I'd have been just like sitting there rewinding, trying to figure out what the fuck did I just hear? You know what I'm saying? Like trying to keep up with the lyricism and the story and the different ways in which people are singing. And then I was like, yo, man, are they ever just gonna have any dialogue where there's no singing at all? Like just talking? Like just talking? Is that a thing? Can we just have like some regular dialogue and then maybe bust out in the song? You know what I'm saying? Like those are the musicals I'm like kind of used to. Like, you know, like yeah, they talking and shit, and then they're like a fight scene's about to happen. But then instead of it being a fight, it's like they dancing and singing and shit, and that's part of the fight. You know what I'm saying? But like, no, man, I tried to watch Hamilton last night. I swear to God, man, I'm gonna try to watch it again, man. I'm gonna try to follow because it seems like it's some pretty dope art, right? I want to watch it. I want to like it. But I'm saying, man, like maybe I gotta turn the subtitles on or some shit so I can follow the story or something. Cause I'm like, man, what the fuck did he say? And like you gotta start rewinding, and it's a lot, man. It's a lot. So yeah, your man Spann is an uncultured swine, man. Real talk. Nothing can happen to me this week. I was at work, man, and you know, I'm driving up the road. It's a residential area, and there's like this big ass turtle in the middle of the street and shit. I almost didn't see him, but like I saw him at the last minute, kind of swerved over to miss him, and I pulled over and shit because I was gonna like try to help this turtle get across the road and shit. I know it sounds like a joke and shit, but for real, I was gonna try to help the turtle get across the road. And I posted about this on Facebook, man. Like the turtle squared up on your boy. Like he squared up and started hissing at me and shit. Like he wouldn't let me get behind him because I was gonna like try to grab him from behind and shit and like kind of pick him up, put him on the other side when it was like a stream or whatever. And he wouldn't let me do it. He just started hissing and shit. He was like turning around, he's like, yo, you ain't getting behind me, nigga. So I'm like, all right, man, fuck it then. And I kept doing what I was doing. You know, I had to go stock my truck up and shit. But as I'm stocking my truck, like there's other traffic that's coming through, and like people are seeing this big ass turtle in the middle of the road, but nobody wants to, of course, nobody wants to run him over. That's like cruel and shit, right? So nobody wants to run him over. And so like I'm noticing like there's a few women over there, and like they're nudging this turtle along with like a stick and shit, but he ain't really moving. As a matter of fact, he like squaring up on them, hissing at them and shit too, right? So I'm like, man, shit. Like he tying up traffic. Whole lot of people to like trying to figure out what the fuck to do with this turtle. So what I did was I grabbed the shovel off of my truck, right? And I picked the shovel up. Like I went over there and I was like, well, fuck it then. I'm gonna lift him up with the shovel and shit. Since he wouldn't let me get close enough to him to kind of pick him up, I'm gonna pick him up with the shovel. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, that turtle was heavier than a motherfucker, man. He had to have weighed every bit of 110 pounds on the edge of that shovel, man. Like I was like, God damn. And I'm trying to pick his ass up and I'm struggling and I'm doing all this shit here, man. And I put him on like, you know, the area between like the side of the road and the sidewalk, like that BC area, put him between the curb, that area right there. And they like these women, they were like, oh no, he'll probably just go right back in the street. You know, maybe we should put him a little further back, you know? And, you know, and I'm thinking, well, maybe he wanted to go the other way because like the water and shit. And like, well, there's a gate over there, so he probably can't get through. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. So I picked this motherfucker up again, this heavy ass motherfucking turtle with the shovel and shit. The whole time, man, the turtle mad as hell. Turtle mad, he is hot. This motherfucker is like hissing and like mouth wide open, like he ready to snap on a nigga and shit. And so I like get him off the shovel and set him back off into like this little wooded area. And then I thought about, because he saw as I left him there, he's hissing louder. Like the turtle just hissing louder. And then I thought about it, I'm like, man, I probably just fucked his day up. He like, nigga, I've been trying all day to get to the other side of the motherfucking road. And here you is gonna put me back here? Some bullshit, man. But that happened. Fucking turtle, man. Like I never thought that would be something that I would like kind of run across like doing my job as gas, man. Just like it's a fucking turtle looks like in the road, and I just probably fucked this whole shit up, man. Real talk. Another thing I was kind of thinking about, man, because I'm in and out of folks' homes every day and shit, and you see how people live, man. You see how like you see how like some people have like, you know, some people are they real particular about their shit, and then you got some people who you could tell just don't give a damn how they live it. And I'm in this area, man. Like, I mean, let me big up my Arabic brothers and sisters, man. Real talk, because when y'all get some bread, y'all houses be looking opulent in the motherfucker. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, you can walk up to the house on the outside of the house, man, and you be like, man, these shutters could use an update or something. But then you get on the inside, and it's like marble floors, pillars and shit, you know, all kind of like fancy shit. And you be like, damn. And you can tell nobody sits in these rooms though, right? Nobody sits in these rooms. Like people, like they'll have like the furniture and shit. It's immaculate. It's all nicely placed and shit. You know, it's the marble floors. You know, there's no television in there. Like there's nothing in there. There's like, and then you go into the basement. There's a whole separate living area, whole separate dining area, whole separate kitchen. Like all that's how they get down. And I ain't mad at them because this should be looking fly. You know what I'm saying? But it made me think about something. Who was the first motherfucker to have like the living room that wasn't no living happening in, right? Because we all kind of grew up in that kind of spot, right? Like when your grandma, you went over to your grandma's house and granny had this like nice ass living room, but you never went in that living room. You could never sit in that damn couch. You could never walk on that white ass carpet. Like that shit was just not happening. And if you did, you was going to have to go out there and go get that switch because granny was going to be on your ass about being on her white ass carpet and them dirty ass gym shoes you had on, that kind of shit. Who was the first though? Who was the first? We got to figure this out. Who was the first to have the living room that no living was happening in? I've been wondering about that ever since I came out of that man's house, man. Like, yeah, he had fucking bearskin rugs and shit on the marble floors. The marble floors are immaculate. They walk like you taking your shoes off before you can come in the house. Like that's kind of how they roll. Like the whole front floor, like the whole first floor, like that. So yeah, I was just thinking about that, man. Who was the first though? Where you had that living room, but wasn't no living happening in it, man. Real talk. Now, yeah, that was all my random thoughts. that was all my random thoughts, man. Real talk. But yo, it's time for us to get to the news, man. Now we started the show. We had Governor Ron DeSantis bragging on how well Florida was doing concerning the coronavirus and how well they were containing the coronavirus and how many people were coming down to Florida because they had it so much contained. Well, apparently Florida, as it stands right now, sets a new record as COVID cases continue to spike in that state. So let me pull this video up so you guys can watch right along here with your man Spann. Here we go.
Some states in the South are reporting new daily COVID-19 records. The situation in Florida is so bad that it's being called the new coronavirus epicenter in the U.S. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock is live in Miami. And Sam, what is going on in Florida today? A new record number of cases?
What isn't going on? Allison, good afternoon. Yeah, we're looking at 4,000 almost cases today. If you look at where the cases were spiking earlier this week, 3,200, 2,600, 2,700, that was a big departure from the 1,000+ cases of a week prior. Now we're all the way up to almost 4,000 cases, nearly 20,000 in a week, pushing Florida's total right now to 90,000. That's the basic backdrop. Now let's go look at what Governor DeSantis said today, because previously the arguments had been, well, look, the positivity rates have still been low. They're no longer low. We're doing more testing. Yes, they are doing more testing, but not quite as much as what we'd seen maybe a week and a half ago when there was 50,000 tests a day. Yesterday was 30,000 something tests, and all of those positives, almost 4,000. What he said was it's younger people that are getting tested right now. The median number, and this was kind of shocking to a lot of people, for last week in Florida, 37 years old. And the governor sort of ticked off all these different areas of the state, whether it's Orange County or Seminole County, where the numbers were like 26, 29, 30. In Miami-Dade and Palm Beach, it was closer to 40. But this is a really young population of people that were being tested. At least that's his point. And so if you're younger and asymptomatic in general, he believes that's less of a taxing, less of a strain on the healthcare system in Florida. I will say this, Allison, as we look at some of the numbers right now, the ICU beds are still going down. And that is absolutely something we have to be keeping an eye on.
All right. So one of the things I thought was very interesting there, like they made it a point to talk about like the average age of the people who are being tested in Florida are younger. Like the average age, I think they said they tended to be like around 37 years old. And a lot of those folks were asymptomatic, this and the third. Here's the tripped out part about all of this is that like, those asymptomatic people can still pass on that virus to people who will suffer a lot more than those who are not asymptomatic. Like if you're an asymptomatic younger person and you get around someone who's older and who's more at risk, you stand a much larger threat to that person than you do yourself, right? And so you know, in trying to spin that as though like, yeah, well, we getting people, they younger, but they asymptomatic. So that means our hospitals are not being overrun. But like, that's right now. A few weeks ago, you were bragging that you had the shit contained completely, right? And this goes back into the whole partisan shit about this entire way that the nation has been dealing with this pandemic. Is that like if you live in some place where there's a Republican that tends to like control the legislature or the governor spot, then they're taking this a lot less seriously, or they had been taking this a lot less seriously than those where Democratic governors and Democratic legislators have. Like, so you look at like Michigan, where like we had saw a big dip in the amount of cases that were happening here, and people were upset with Governor Gretchen Whitmer with the way in which she was, like, they thought that she was being a dictator with the way in which she was trying to keep people safe when it came to this coronavirus. And you got folks in Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Texas. Texas is a hot spot right now. Texas, I just believe they made it to where it's mandatory for you to wear a face mask on the outside. Like, you can't go outside without wearing a face mask. It's mandatory now. These were states who were talking about they weren't going to do any of this social distancing. They weren't going to do any of the lockdown. They weren't going to do any of this shit. And now you find out like this virus isn't going anywhere. Donald Trump was telling folks it was just going to magically disappear in April. It hasn't done so. We've got more cases in this nation than any other fucking developed nation in the world because of the off-hands approach of not only the president, but of the Republican governors and legislatures across this nation. And this is part of the reason why we're seeing spikes and shit. And then you got carelessness of the people who believe that you're infringing upon their rights to ask them to wear a fucking mask. It's my right not to wear a mask. Well, what about me, motherfucker? You keep talking about some my body, my choice. It's weird how they want to try to hijack the language of the abortion movement by talking about my body, my choice. But yeah, your body is actually maybe assaulting mine with the choices that you're making. So yeah, man, like the smugness of which Ron DeSantis was like talking a couple weeks ago compared to what's happening in Florida right now. Yeah, that's crazy, man. But that's in the news, man. Real talk. Almost the other part about it is though, like coronavirus don't give a damn. And they really just looking at Florida like,
you shouldn't have been talking shit.
You shouldn't have been talking shit, man. Real talk. But we got another story here in the news, man. Apparently Iran wants to arrest Donald Trump, and they put out an arrest warrant for that nigga to come over there.
Well, that'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
Yes, indeed, man. So we get this story here. Let's see where we got it from. We get this story here from this comes out of CNN.com. And it says that Iran has issued an arrest warrant for U.S. President Donald Trump over the drone strike that killed a top Iranian general in January, the semi-official Fars news agency reported Monday. Trump is one of 36 people Iran has issued arrest warrants for in relation to the death of Qasem Solemani, commander of the Islamic Revolution Guard Corps. According to Fars, but the Tehran Attorney General Ali Al-Qasi Mayor said Trump was at the top of the list. Mayor claimed Trump would be prosecuted as soon as he stands down his presidency after the term ends. Iran also said that he had asked Interpol to issue a red notice for these 36 individuals, semi-official state news agency INTA reported, though it was unlikely that Interpol would grant the request. In a statement to CNN, Interpol said that it would not consider requests of this nature. It explained that it was not in accordance with its rules and constitution, which state it is strictly forbidden for the organization to undertake any intervention or activities of a political, military, religious, or racial character. So I'm going to just say this right now, man. What's the reward? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the reward? What y'all paying out, baby? You know, because your man Spann out. Like, if I got some information, nigga, I will give y'all the information to go get this bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can get this motherfucker about to pay right now, nigga. Like, right now, go get this motherfucker. How much y'all paying, man? How much y'all paying? I will dime this motherfucker out as soon as y'all see them. I'm like, hey, y'all want how much? Y'all give me how much? Yeah, get this nigga out of here. Like, just, hey, yeah, 1600. Pennsylvania Avenue. Now you're gonna run into some motherfuckers when you get there, right? You got a lot of security, but you might be able to get him up out of there because sometimes he come outside. Or better yet, you know, he like talking on unsecured phones and shit. You know, like maybe you can like do something with him, like, you know, get, you know, like take him into custody that way. Like, I don't know, man. But like, here's the interesting thing, though, right? So 2020 has been so fucked up that we almost forgot that we were about to go to war with Iran earlier this year because of this shit. Like, that's just how fucked up 2020 has been. They're like, yo, we started this year damn near about to go to war with Iran. We ended up with coronavirus. George Floyd gets killed, and now we've got the Black Lives Matter movement, who had like kind of waned over the last couple of years, has seen a massive resurgence. Racial identity and racial politics and social justice has been at an all-time high in the nation. And so you got all of these things going on. We almost felt the killer wasp or the Asian hornets or whatever, the murder hornets or whatever. Like, we've had all these things happen over the course of the year that we've almost forgot, that we almost went to like World War III and shit to start 2020. 2020 came off with a motherfucking bang, and it's still banging, man. It's still banging as we sit here in July, like celebrating, or some folks are out here celebrating July 4th, man, real talk. But that's in the news, man. Now, another story that's here in the news is Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Big Gretch, is out here. She's really pining for her seat at the cookout, man. Real talk. I think Gretchen Whitmer at this point might come to the cookout percolating down the Soul Train line, man, for real. So we get this story here. This actually comes out of let's see, where do we get this story from? We get the story here out of, where is it? This comes out of the Detroit Free Press. But Gretchen Whitmer right now was calling for a ban on chokeholds by the police, and she wants to make racially motivated 911 calls a goddamn hate crime. Oh shit, this ain't playing. What the hell? We've been having issues with the damn pad lately. But we get this story out of Free Press, and it says just a few weeks before Cody Chandler's father, Richard Chandler, died of complications of COVID-19, he led the Detroit Youth Choir in a performance at Christ Church Cranbrook in Bloomfield Hills. Cody was among the performers who competed in 2019 on America's Got Talent. Okay, I don't understand what that has to do with anything. It says Gretchen Whitmer said Monday she wants to ban police use of chokeholds that make racially motivated 911 hate crimes. The measures were among a new series of police reforms called for by Whitmer, who on June 3rd announced other measures she wants enacted in Michigan, including requiring police officers to intervene if they see colleagues using excessive force. Whitmer called for the ban on chokeholds as protests continue in Michigan and across the country over the Memorial Day death of George Floyd after an arrest by Minneapolis police in which the former officer used his knee to press down on Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes, despite the fact that Floyd said he could not breathe. All Michiganders, no matter what their community or the color of their skin, deserve equal treatment under the law, Whitmer said in a news release. This proposal will help us ensure that law enforcement officials treat all Michiganders with humanity and respect and will help us keep our community safe. I will continue to work with leaders in law enforcement to make Michigan public safety more than just equitable. So, yeah, man. The interesting thing about this is like, yeah, it's cool for her to be able to like call out for this, but how often will we see these proposals come into law? Because again, we do have a like a Republican legislature here in the state of Michigan. So it'll be interesting to see how often these things actually come up to pass, man. Real talk. Shout out to Cook in the chat room. What's going on, baby? Shout out to Cook in the chat room. And Duke is talking about, yeah, Kobe died in 2022. Like, I forgot that too. Like, we've had so much shit happening in 2020. Kobe dying, murder hornets, coronavirus, World War III with Iran, and possibly North Korea. It's been a lot. It's been a lot happening over the course of this last 7 months, man. Real talk. But yo, man, that has been our motherfucking news. Hey, man, what's going on with my shit? This ain't right. This ain't right. Let's try that again. But y'all know what time it is.
What in blue blazes is going on out here? Did this nigga just say blue blazes?
Yeah, man. So our first story here in Blue Blazes is Terry Crews, man. Terry Crews is out here. He's in Blue Blazes. And the reason why we're talking about Terry Crews is Terry Crews has been out here sticking his motherfucking foot in his mouth. Terry Crews got on Twitter and like Terry Crews did this thing where like he's that contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian, which is whack as shit. Like and people who do this Like they always tend to act as though like they're presenting an alternative argument or they are playing the devil's advocate, and they just simply want to have they're always on the opposite side of whatever the popular view of whatever topic you're talking about is. It's always that same person, right? They're always the devil's advocate. Excuse me. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. Be wary of those who always play the side of the devil's advocate. Always, because truthfully speaking, maybe they're not playing the devil's advocate, maybe they're advocating for themselves, right? And so Terry Crews went on Twitter. He said something to the effect of, we must make sure that like Black Lives Matter doesn't turn into Black Lives Better, right? And that's so far from what the Black Lives Matter movement has been about from its inception to now. It's essentially been an outcry for equitable treatment as citizens of this country. No matter, whether you're, of course it's about Black lives in particular, but, you've got, white people who will always come out and say like, well, what about, it's all lives matter. What about blue lives? Although blue lives is a motherfucking occupation, it's not a life, but there's that whole thing, right? So Roland Martin decided to have Terry Crews on his show, Roland Martin Unfiltered. And Roland was actually asking Terry Crews about why he's always taking these sorts of stances and things. And there was a couple of different things that I took away from that discussion. But before I tell you guys what I thought about that, let me go ahead and pull this up so we can both kind of watch this together. Because there was one stretch of this particular interview that I thought was very interesting in how he responded to it. So let me pull this up so you guys can watch right along with me. I know I got it here. Here we go. All right. So where did I have that set up? Okay, right here. 11. Sorry, guys. I thought I had this set up already. All right, so here we go. Let's see what he's talking about.
This is stuff that I have faced personally, and I just really am tired of actually having to be quiet about it. And I love my people so much that I'm willing to risk it all. First of all, I face how everybody loves to say that, oh, well, he's trying to please the white man or whatever. I took on Hollywood by myself 2 years ago, all by myself. I spent $500,000 on my money. I'm still waiting for them checks from anybody else who said they supported me because they didn't. And first of all, I and my wife, we all went up against Hollywood and my career was over. It was done. And so I've risked it all once before. I'll do it again. I've been canceled for almost everything under the sun. I've been canceled for going to China by white men. I've been canceled by the LGBTQ community for talking about fatherhood. I've been canceled by many, many people for many, many reasons. This is the new day and era. You are going to be canceled. It's okay. If you have any opinion, I'm sorry, somebody's not going to like it. But I would rather have the conversation in this new millennium so we can talk. We can really open it up because this is the deal. If you can't reveal these things that are wrong, we can never get better. We'll always keep that little lacquer. I realized on my own life, if I was not forthwith about my own issues, I couldn't improve. And this is what we have to do as a community and even as the United States. It's not, oh, look at Russia. No, we got to look at us. You know what I mean? And the thing is, it's not, oh, look at that white man. No, look at this guy down the street who's terrorizing your neighborhood. I am one of those guys, and I'm black, and I can call it. You know what? I can say things white people can't say. And you know what? I can't even stop. What's so crazy is that I was repeated, and they put me on Fox News. I am not a Trump supporter. I will never go on Fox News. I am not for anything they are talking about. Okay, I'm not Republican. I'm not even into all of that. But the thing is that I do have a viewpoint. And when I can express my own viewpoint on my own social media and get told, stop it, pull the plug on them. I mean, what are you so scared of? I'm not on a major network or whatever. I'm telling my own thing. And then I go to work and do what I do. So.
All right. So a couple different things that I took away from that, because truthfully speaking, he was talking a lot about some of the criticisms that he gets on social media, namely Twitter, right? And it was a couple of different takeaways that I took away from this particular interview. And I talked about this a bit on Twitter. Like the first thing that I took away from this is Terry Crews seems to be one of those people who takes criticisms to heart. Like Terry Crews is one of those folks who, like, if you say something negative to Terry Crews is going to like carry that with him for a while. Terry Crews is not going to let that go. And I say that because, excuse me, I say that because Terry Crews talked about how he was a corny guy, like, you know, and people always called him like this corny dude. And, you know, he was always like the outcast, so to speak. Like he always asked like the difficult questions, or he always found himself being told to shut up. He always found himself being told to not ask that question, this, that, and the other. And he talks about how Black people respond to him on Twitter, and they talking about pull the plug on him. Terry Crews out here trying to, you know, appease white people, this, that, and the third. Never really taken into account like how some of the rhetoric that Terry Crews uses, how he uses his rhetoric, is also repeated by white people and used against Black people. And this is part of the reason why, you know, I talk about like folks like Kanye West, Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum, those types of folks. Those are the people who white folks go to when they want to talk. When they want to talk about Black people, they'll use Candace Owens, Kanye, Brandon Tatum, those types of folks as a cover for the racist shit that's about to come up out of their mouth. This is what they do. And I don't know if Terry Crews is necessarily aware that this is how his language is being used and how it could be used. But I'm sure that this is part of the reason that Terry Crews gets the criticism that he gets on Twitter. Now, the thing is, Terry Crews holds on to that. Terry Crews takes that shit personally. He's going to hold on to that. And he uses that as a justification as to why he will continue to do the shit that he does, right? The other part that I thought was very interesting about that exchange was Terry Crews when he talked about being canceled, and he talked about going up against Hollywood. He said his career was over, and he spent $500,000 of his own money to basically revive his career. He got no support from anybody, and that you know, he's still waiting for the checks from all of those folks who said that they supported him, this, that, and the third, right? And the interesting thing about that is when Terry Crews was coming out with the story of the man who grabbed him by the genitals at a party, and he was telling that story. This is at the height of the Me Too movement. This is when Me Too was like, you know, growing and burgeoning as a movement, and he came out to tell that story. The people who came out to support him and have his back the most were Black women. Black women came out in droves to support this dude. Now, interestingly enough, it was a lot of Black dudes who came out against, you know, Terry Crews. I can remember talking about this with when D.L. Hughley was joking about Terry Crews and whether or not Terry Crews might have liked it or wanted it and enjoyed it and everything else. I'm like, man, if Terry Crews put hands on this guy, like, would it still be a joke? You know what I'm saying? Like, you talking about how well he could smack somebody. What if he decided he wanted to smack you? You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I remember that being a thing where like a lot of Black men were coming at Terry Crews and sideways, but there were a lot of Black women, tons of Black women who were coming to Terry Crews' defense to talk about, or basically to kind of like thank him for coming out, thank him for validating what they had been talking about. Because truthfully speaking, a lot of people was like, well, when you think about sexual assault, you think about a woman being the victim of sexual assault, and you think that at some point in time, maybe she deserved it. Maybe she asked for it. This is the mindset that a lot of people have when they talk about sexual assault. And so for Terry Crews to come forward and say, hey, this happened to me, a lot of women took hold to that. A lot of women took heed to it, and they wanted to protect Terry Crews. And so for Terry Crews to come out now and say, like, yo, I'm looking for all the people who supported me because I ain't seen a check from none of them. It's like, so is the support only supposed to be monetarily? Is that the only way that you kind of like register whether or not somebody supports you? Like,
Negro, please.
What are you doing? Because basically you just said all of these Black women who stood up and took shots for you, essentially, like it meant nothing because they didn't send you a fucking check. That's what's crazy. And so Terry Crews, like asserting that like we got to make sure that Black Lives Matter doesn't become Black Lives Better is only it's language that makes white people comfortable. And this is why, although he doesn't necessarily see it, like, white people will use the language of a Terry Crews. He has to go on here now and say, I will never be on Fox News. I'm not a Trump supporter. I don't get down with any of these things, because they're already using his language to come down on the Black Lives Matter movement, to come down on what that Black Lives Matter movement even means. They already believe that the Black Lives Matter movement is about black supremacy. They said so already. So to have Terry Crews come out and try to like even give that some level of legitimacy and talking about that in a very public way only amplifies that for white people. Like, well, shit, there's Terry Crews. He's saying it. I mean, we've got Candace Owens and Kanye West are saying it. You know, this Black Lives Matter thing is not necessarily about equality. They want to be better than us white folks, you know. And this is what they do. And it's mind-boggling to me that like Terry Crews does not necessarily he's not getting that, like how he uses his voice publicly can be used against black people and the movement for bettering black lives, right? It's crazy how that's going on, man. Like, and like at some point, you got to let the devil's advocacy thing go. Being contrary for contrary's sake is fucking whack. And if you continuously find yourself on the business end of black people telling you to shut the fuck up, maybe, just maybe, you might want to take heed to that message, because you might be one of those folks who like, you know, the whole thing was like, well, you know, that whole common denominator thing, it might be you. Could be a thing like that right now with Terry Crews. Like, you constantly find yourself on the business end of black people telling you to shut the fuck up. Might be you, bruh. It might be you. So yeah, man. That's in Blue Blazers, man. Real talk. Now we got another story here that's in Blue Blazers. Apparently, some young man had a good job. He got rid of them good jobs. He did well down at Amazon. Well, this motherfucker went to work, decided he didn't want to work no more, dropped that motherfucking truck off with the keys in it. Everybody's packages was in that shit too. God damn! So we got this story here. This comes out of fox2detroit.com. Let me pull this video up. So because my man was on channel 2, man. He was talking big shit about him leaving this damn job. Let me pull this up so you guys can watch right along with me here. Here we go. Let's do that. All right. Okay, so I think Jennifer Dupnack is the one who did the reporting on this. All right, let me pull this up so you guys can watch right along with me. Whoops. Here we go. Check it out, y'all.
This is the Southfield gas station where Amazon delivery driver Derek Lancaster says he just had enough with his job. So he abandoned the truck here, keys, packages inside, then got in an Uber, went home.
Like, you feel me? I ain't about to keep waking up at 9 in the morning, bro, and getting off at 9 o'clock, bro.
Derek.
Hold on. First of all, I think it's very interesting that my man complaining about waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning, bro. I'm at work 2 hours already. Like, I'm at work already for 2 hours. Why this man? Come on, I ain't gonna keep waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning, bro. I'm already at work 2 hours. My man complaining about being up at 9, man.
Lancaster on a Twitter rant after pulling a stunt gone viral, taking a stand against his former employer, Amazon.
And I just stepped out the car and just wandered off.
Wandered right away from his delivery truck full of packages, unlocked, keys inside. What was that feeling like?
I just felt great.
Then he posted on social media, telling folks exactly where he abandoned the truck at this marathon station in Southfield.
That's crazy. I mean, I guess he was done. I guess he was fed up, you know.
Before I quit my job, I'm at least going to drop the truck off or something.
The truck sat for a while, but was eventually picked up by Amazon. It's unclear if any packages were.
So he said on Twitter, I quit Amazon. Fuck that driving shit. I left the van on 12 Mile in Southfield. Y'all can have that shit, and it's full of gas with the keys and ignition. He said this shit on like Twitter. He's bragging about this shit on Twitter.
We're missing.
If you were standing here right now, what would you tell Derek? Be an adult, you know, take care of your responsibilities. When you work there the right way instead of just being childish and ignorant, maybe? I'm not sure.
Derek says he was worked too hard, pulling 12-hour shifts every day, delivering sometimes 200 packages. How much you making an hour?
$15.50.
Okay. And that's full time?
Full time.
Do you get benefits or anything?
Yeah, you get the 401k and all the other stuff.
And overtime. But COVID on top of it all, then the weather, he says.
It's hot as hell, bro. It be like 97 degrees outside. You feel me? I ain't about to keep waking up at 9 in the morning, bro, and getting off at 9 o'clock, bro.
These teens saw Derek's post on social media and give him credit.
Really, it shows initiative. I mean, if I had a company that needed somebody who's willing to abandon everything for their ideals, I'd hire them. But not
nigga, what?
I'm just gonna let life take me where it take me. I'm 22. I applied for school the other day, so I'm more focused on that.
We did reach out to the Hazel Park Amazon location, did not hear back in time for this story. In Southfield, Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
All right. So yeah, man. Remember I told y'all I was gonna be like leaning into my uncle vibes right now, man. I'm about to lean into my old nigga uncle vibes right now, yo. This reminds me of some shit an uncle of mine told me when I was younger. When I was like 19, 20, 21, and I thought I knew every motherfucking thing. And I didn't know shit. That's what that was. This is a young man who thought he knew everything and don't know shit. And especially when she got to talking to them other young people and he was almost like, yeah, he's standing up for his ideals. Nigga, what were those ideals? Did he say those ideals other than the fact that he was mad that he had to work 12-hour shifts? You know what I'm saying? Like, think about what's going on right now, right? You got coronavirus going on. Shouldn't be a whole lot of parties going on this summer, bruh. Like, shouldn't be a whole lot of that going on at all. As a matter of fact, when I was 22, $15 an hour wasn't something that I even thought was feasible for some shit that I was doing. Like, if they had $15 an hour jobs when I was 22, like, that I could have gotten doing that kind of shit, I'd have taken that shit in a heartbeat. And he got 401k and full benefits, and it was full time, and he was getting the overtime. Nigga, what was wrong with you? Nigga, what's wrong with you? Is you crazy? You got to be crazy, boy. And, like, think about this, man. He's 22. He gave up $15.50 an hour plus overtime plus benefits because what exactly? Like, this is the thing. Like, I know, like, when we were young, like, and you had to work. Like, I remember I had this job at an airline. Fuck it, like they no longer exist. American Transair. I used to work for American Transair back in like 2000, somewhere around there. And I never forget, like, you know, because it's an airline, people are flying all year long, like even on the holidays and shit. And I never forget like being upset because like it was Christmas and like I had family coming over to the house for Christmas and stuff, but I missed all of my family because I was at work all day on Christmas. And I was spitting fire that day because I was mad at all of the passengers, despite the fact that the reason like these passengers flying that day like paid me. But I was spitting fire because I'm like, why ain't you motherfuckers go where y'all need to go before Christmas? Why y'all trying to fly on motherfucking Christmas Day? Like I was doing all that kind of shit, right? And I was upset. I was highly upset at that time. I'm still kind of salty about that shit today. I ain't gonna lie to you. But at the time, I didn't decide I was gonna quit my job because I had to work on Christmas. He's talking about some, I gotta work 12-hour days. I'm at work from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. Hey, guess what, man? I'm at work sometimes from like 7 in the morning to damn near 7 o'clock at night. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I might not walk through the door until 10 o'clock in the evening. But I be thinking about that check when I get that motherfucker though, right? And I guess that's like when you get older, you get that like that perspective and shit. Like, but he walked away from that because he had to get up. He like, it's 97 degrees outside. Like, bro, the truck ain't got AC. Like, maybe you should say something. Hey, like if the truck don't have AC, maybe they should address that. You know what I'm saying? But like, this ain't shit. Like what he's walking away from, like the work that they're asking him to do, like to deliver the packages and shit, like this just screams young people like, I get another job. It ain't no thing. Like, and it might not necessarily work out for you in that way. Think about this also. Like, he don't know that he might have fucked up some other future job prospects when this story went viral and when this story hit the news, that his name is going to pop up and then they're going to search his name when he goes to apply for another job. Like, hey, ain't you the kid that like left the damn Amazon truck like running with keys in the ignition and like packages and stuff from other people's things that they had paid for on that truck? Aren't you that kid? He's going like, this is the thing. Like, your record is like permanent now, like in a real way with the internet. So I don't know if he necessarily understands the ramifications of what this could mean for him in the future, but this is that young people shit. Like, and I'm like old uncle now, which is crazy. But yo, that's in blue blazes. This nigga actually just said fuck it and left the damn truck. Can't believe it, man. He said Horatio is in the chat room. He says, how are you a grown ass man and you just wander off? Like, bro, I don't know what the fuck is, but I'm gonna say this too, though, right? Because I don't want this to seem as though, like, you know, you just like young people just shitting on, I mean, older people just shitting on the young folks. Like, truthfully speaking, man, like, I've been young before. I've done stupid shit, something similar to this because I just wasn't feeling it or whatever. It's not that. I think that the whole thing of like going viral, posting it on Twitter, posting it on, like, you know, going live and shit to tell everybody what you just did, I think that's a bit much. And I know, like, these things weren't available to us when we were kids. We probably would have did the same shit if Twitter and like YouTube live and Facebook live and shit was available when I was like 21, 22. We probably would have done the same shit. But I'm still saying that like that was the bridge too far. Like going out to tell everybody, like, there's the need though. This is the part about it too. The need to let social media know, like everybody in the world needs to know about this particular thing that I'm doing right now. Like, this needs to go out to the world. This is something different from, you know, kind of how we came up a bit. So yeah, man, he said Duke Mintz is in the chat room. He says he's going to have the word responsible on his cover letter and then wonder why the jobs ain't calling back. They not going to, once they see these videos, man, that's the part. Like, you can delete the videos. That shit is permanent, bro. Somebody done screen capped the shit. Somebody done downloaded the shit. That shit is permanent. You can't even delete the videos now, you know? And so he's going to have trouble trying to get jobs in the future, man, real talk. But I just thought that was interesting. And that was in blue blazes, man, real talk. Now, as we talk about like the irresponsibleness of young people, apparently down in Alabama, man, they are throwing motherfucking COVID parties, man.
Negro, please.
They are though. That's what they're doing. So we're gonna get this story here. I believe this comes out of CNN. Let me see if I can pull this up. Because I'm sure there's video attached to this as well. Yeah, there is. This comes out of go.com. I remember when go.com was the shit, man. They used to have like email addresses and shit. You know, I had a go.com email. As a matter of fact, my old MySpace email was the Go email, and then they got rid of the shit. Now I can't access my MySpace. It's some bullshit. But apparently, like I said, Alabama students are throwing COVID parties to see who gets infected first, man. There's some crazy shit. But we get the story out of ABC News. So let me go ahead and pull this video up so you guys can go ahead.
COVID clusters that have been.
Let me pull this up so you guys can watch right along with your man Spann. Here we go.
Linked to parties in both New York and Alabama. Allegation students, are you ready for this? Are intentionally trying to get sick, even gambling on who gets the virus first. Ariel Reshef is in Rockland County, New York, with the latest on this for us. Good morning, Ariel.
Hey, good morning to you, Robin. Those allegations are shocking. Officials say that those parties are causing hotspots like the one here in Rockland County, as more and more young people may be contracting and spreading this virus.
This morning, officials with an urgent warning after they say college students allegedly held COVID parties, knowingly attending gatherings with infected guests.
College kids are having COVID parties where they're getting tickets, they're buying tickets to come to the party. And then they will invite a couple of students that have tested positive for COVID. So if you are the first person that tests positive for COVID, then you win the money.
State officials confirming that students intentionally may have spread the virus around Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and now possibly the state.
Not only do the doctor's offices help confirm it, but the state confirmed they had also had the same information.
In Rockland County, New York, at least 8 confirmed cases allegedly linked to a house party full of 20-year-olds in a suburb of New York City.
It's a very uncaring attitude to the rest of society.
Authorities say the host of the party was already symptomatic during the event, and there were at least 2 other parties with guests in common. And now officials say some of those at the party are not cooperating with contact tracers.
I don't have to speak with you. Don't call me again. I will not tell you anything. Or I was not at the party. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. I was not there and I'm not going to speak.
Authorities issuing subpoenas to 9 people with possible $2,000 per day fines for noncompliance.
We are deadly serious. I will not allow to have the health of our county compromised.
It comes ahead of a holiday weekend as cases among young people are rising in many areas across the country.
And officials are calling those parties both reckless and dangerous. They are urging, especially as we head into the holiday weekend, that young people abide by the CDC guidelines. Of course, that means hand hygiene, social distancing, and wearing a mask when possible. Whit.
Gambling on who catches the virus. Unbelievable. Ariel, thank you so much.
Yeah, man. So yeah, man, that's crazy. But again, we're talking about we're talking a little bit about the irresponsibleness of like young people. Here's the other tripped out part about this too, because we talked about the politicization, whatever the fuck the word is. We talked about the politicization of like COVID and like how people feel about wearing masks and how, or if they're not going to wear a mask, this, that, and the third. And it's not surprising to me that this is happening in like a quote unquote red state. And like the people who are having these sorts of parties are talking to medical officials and saying, well, I don't need to talk to you. I don't have to give you this information. I wasn't at the party, this, that, and the third. The attitude around COVID-19, like the cavalier attitude that a lot of people have around this disease is scary, right? When America talks about being number one, like, I don't know if we really want to be number one and losing, but we losing this battle against COVID-19, man. And it's because we have so many people who have decided that this is a political issue and not necessarily a scientific and health one, that they can just operate with impunity despite what the evidence concerning this disease and what it does and who it affects actually is. And here's the other part about this. The attitudes around this disease, I believe I believe this to be true. Can't prove it, but I believe this to be true. The evidence around how people's attitudes around this disease changed when they found out that mostly Black people were being disproportionately affected by this disease. A lot of the people who were falling victim to this disease, who were dying from this disease, were older Black people. And once they found out that it was older Black people who were being affected in disproportionate rates when it came to this, that's when they decided a lot of these states had to reopen. That's when they decided that a lot of these economies were going to be reopening. And if you had to get off the unemployment because your job was coming back, and your job was coming back because they don't want to pay the unemployment to all of these people, because they knew that it was affecting largely Black and brown communities, largely older Black and brown people. And so like this cavalier attitude that I'm getting, again, can't prove it. It's all feeling. But I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of these people were young white kids who went to the University of Alabama, and they typically vote Republican. And they have this attitude that like, yo, man, this disease isn't as bad as they've made it out to be. And this reason why I say that is because this Republican leadership has also echoed these sentiments time and time again, that this disease isn't as bad as they've made it out to be. Hey, it's a flu, you know, you can live. You've had the flu before. It's just like the flu, you know, we'll get past this. It's nothing, you know? And so I truly believe that like the moment that they found out that Black and brown people were the ones who were disproportionately being affected by the, like in a very negative way by the outbreak of this disease, is when they decided that we didn't have to necessarily take the precautions that we needed to take in this country anymore. And now we have, of all of the developed nations in the world, we have the most cases. We are not, like the curve that we thought we were flattening down has spiked again here in the summer months as Florida had opened up their beaches, and Texas decided they were going to, like, you know, have they weren't going to do any real fucking social distancing or any real mandate of wearing masks or anything else. And now these places are becoming hot spots across the country for COVID-19. Right. And so, yeah, man. Scary times, man. 2020 has been lit and it's scary as shit. But yo, man, that has been Blue Blazers, yo.
What in blue blazes is going on out here? This nigga just say blue blazes.
But y'all know what time it is.
That I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Yes, indeed, it's time for this shit. Proud to be an American time here at the Spann Report podcast. And our first story here in Proud to be an American is, Ken and Karen, man. Ken and Karen out in South Carolina. I'm sorry, not South Carolina. My bad, y'all. St. Louis. They decided that as protesters were walking past their home, that they would pull out the AR-15 and the looked like a Ruger 380 that she had in her hand. They would pull the guns out, and here's the kicker, though, right? They said they are supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Let me pull this story up, man, because these people are crazy. But apparently, the McCloskeys, Mark and Patricia McCloskey, say that they are supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement. They just didn't appreciate you motherfuckers tearing down their private fence. We're going to read the story here. This comes out of ksdk.com. Is there a video to this? Because I would much rather prefer. Oh, there is video. So let me go ahead and pull this up so we can watch right along. Y'all can watch right along with your man. Here we go. Let's see what he got to say about this. Because this guy, Mark McCloskey, is an attorney, and apparently he's like a civil rights attorney or some shit. But let's
all right. So, Mark, thanks for giving me a few minutes. Let's just get right to it. I know you have to prepare for a mediation. Tell me what happened last night.
Hey, we came back to the house. I don't know what time it is. I've been up ever since, so I'm a little blurry. But we were preparing dinner. We went out to the east patio, the open porch that faces Kings Highway on one side and Portland Place Drive on the south. And we're sitting down for dinner. We'd heard all this stuff going on down in Maryland Plaza, and then the mob started to move up Kings Highway. When it got parallel with the Kings Highway gate on Portland Place, somebody forced the gate, and I stood up and announced that this is private property, go back. I can't remember in detail anymore. I went inside, I got a rifle, and because as soon as I said this is private property, those words enraged the crowd, and absolute horde came through the now smashed down gate, coming right at the house. I mean, my east patio was 40 feet from Portland Place Drive, and these people were right up in my face, scared to death.
Okay.
And then
instantly, this dude said that they were like 40 feet, like they were right up in his face and shit. For those of you who have seen videos of what was going on with with him and his wife, you can tell nobody came right up on this dude as he's walking around with a fucking AR-15 in his damn hand. Nobody came right up to his face, man. Those people kept walking. They were on the sidewalk. They kept walking. Some of them stopped to like video what the hell was actually happening, but nobody actually walked up towards this dude, him and his wife, as they were like, you know, having the interactions between him and them. Like that just didn't happen.
I stood out there. The only thing we said is this is private property. Go back. Private property. Leave now. At that point, everybody got enraged. There were people wearing body armor. One person pulled out some loaded pistol magazines and clicked them together and said, "You're next." We're threatened with our lives, threatened with a house burned down.
And this is something that he also repeated on CNN. There was a CNN interview that he did with Chris Cuomo that I thought was hilarious because he had his lawyer on there, and his lawyer was kind of like talking in circles and shit. And I thought it was funny because Chris Cuomo was like kind of actually hit him up with like, man, I don't know what the hell you talking about. like, what are you even talking about? And then he went back to talking to Mr. McCloskey. But like this dude, he's talking about like, yo, so some random guy in the crowd took two magazines from a handgun and clicked them together to say, "You're next." He's saying that as you got a fucking AR-15 in your hand, pointing it at the crowd. Now think about this for a second. You and your wife are sitting down having dinner. There's a crowd that was like, you know, on their way towards protesting against the mayor, I believe, the mayor of the city of St. Louis, because they believe that she doxed people who were talking about defunding the police, right? Put their names and their addresses out so people can maybe come visit them. I've been doxed before. It's not exactly the greatest thing in the world that have happened to you, right? But they were protesting against the mayor about that. And so you decide that you're going to come outside with an AR-15 and your wife comes out with a pistol, her hand on the trigger, by the way. And that was going to somehow make the situation better, right? Now, I say this as someone who owns firearms, who believes in the Second Amendment and and using it to protect yourself, protect your home, protect your family. I believe in all of that. But I also understand, you know, trying to de-escalate a situation. those folks weren't on your property. They weren't on like your home. Like they were walking along this private sidewalk. Now you can say it's like it's private property, this, that, and the third, but they're walking along the sidewalk. They're not on your house. They're not walking towards your house. They're going somewhere completely different. And you and your wife are standing there with your guns hanging out. Like, and the interesting thing about this is that you can tell that neither one of them have ever shot those guns before. Like, I looked at those pictures. I looked at how they were handling those firearms. They crossed the barrels of each other multiple times. Like, she's walking around, she's pointing that gun at people, her finger on the trigger, no trigger discipline whatsoever to be spoken of. Right? He's got the gun like slung down low, like he's been watching fucking Stevens. I'm sorry, not Steven Seagal, but like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone and shit, like in like all these old 80s action flicks or whatever else. He's not even holding his fucking rifle properly. She's not holding a gun properly. She's basically committed assault by pointing her gun at people with her finger on the trigger. That's an assault, right? They're lawyers, which is even more fucked up. They should know better. And to top all of this shit off, you're allies to Black Lives Matter. You didn't understand, or you haven't been paying attention to the news as to why those people will be coming towards that area to be protesting the mayor of the city in which you live. And you come outside with an AR-15. Think about this for a second. You know, white people always talk about like the police and calling the police in situations like that to kind of like get control of a situation like that. Here you are on your front porch. You said you were about to have dinner. You on your front porch with your wife, and both of y'all are carrying handguns, or she's got a handgun, you've got a rifle, basically just pointing it at people who are walking past the house. How is that de-escalating the situation by any means? And if you're an ally to Black Lives Matter, hey, how about you put the motherfucking gun away? Like, hey man, what y'all doing? Oh, that's what's up. Let's go down to the mayor's house. If you were actually fucking allies to Black Lives Matter, but that's not what it was, right? And so, like, the idea that these people are talking about, well, you know, we're allies to the Black Lives Matter. I represented Black people in the courts of law, and I resent the implications that I will be considered an enemy of the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, you are being used much the same way, even if what he was saying was true. He's being used in much the same way that Terry Crews is being used by those who have a beef with the Black Lives Matter movement. This is what is like strange to me, is that people who, well, I don't know necessarily like how we hold Terry Crews' intellect, but like this dude here is a lawyer and everything else. Like, how do you not understand the optics? How do you not understand the language? How do you not understand the rhetoric that is going to be spun by the image of you on your porch with your wife holding guns against Black people, and then you're going to say that you are allied to the Black Lives Matter movement? Unless, of course, you think we all are fucking fools and like, yeah, man, well, you know, we can't really hold it against him, man. You know, he is a civil rights attorney, you know. Fuck out of here, man. Fuck out of here. Right now, I just kind of like, I know you kind of wish that like all the videos that are out, like, it don't make sense, man. It don't make sense. But like, yo, white people with guns. The only thing I saw in that video was some scared ass white people who weren't ready nor prepared for there to be a demonstration in their neighborhood. Here's the other part about this, right? So there's the rhetoric of like these protests turning violent, that there's violent protesters, and these violent protesters are coming to destroy your neighborhoods, to destroy your property, to razz all of the goods in your home, this, that, and the third. This is why there's so many people buying firearms now. Americans are scared, right? Americans are scared. Now, I know I kind of joked last week because I just bought another firearm, and it was a birthday gift, right? But I just went and got another firearm, and like the you know, how long it took for my background check to clear. You know, and I kind of joked about there being that might have had something to do with it too. There being another guy with my exact same name who had killed somebody in Iowa being locked up, and maybe that, you know, had something to do with the length of my background check. However, Also, the amount of people who are out here buying firearms simply because it's COVID-19 going on. You got the Black Lives Matter movement going on. You got media who are actually scaring these people into believing that the Black Lives Matter movement is coming to take their shit. And you got a lot of people who hadn't bought firearms before who are buying firearms now, and they're scared. They're scared. And what I saw in that video was two scared individuals. That woman, Patricia McCloskey, committed an assault against hundreds of people by taking that firearm, pointing her gun at that group of people with her finger on the trigger. Right? So yeah, man, like the idea that they were Black Lives Matter allies is fucking laughable. It's ridiculous, but that's proud to be an American, man. Real talk. Now, while we're talking guns, while we're talking white couples, there was another incident that happened here in Michigan. This happened in Orion Township here in Michigan, where a white woman and a white husband pulled a gun on a young lady and her mom after a bumping incident that happened in Chipotle. I think someone got bumped into at Chipotle. So we get the story here. I want to pull this video up because here's the thing, and this is something that like I saw it at first on Twitter, and it started kind of percolating down Facebook or whatever. And I saw the video of like this white woman. She pulls his gun out, like, get the fuck back, and everything. It's like, oh shit, like that's fucked up. Then I saw the whole video, and it's not necessarily as cut and dry as that first video that was released on social media kind of made it out to be. It's not necessarily as cut and dry. So I want to make sure that we play the entire video, and I'm gonna pull that up here because we gotta kind of examine this. So let's do this here. Because I got a couple different ones here. Wait a second. This is why I'm so confused. All my shit is messed up. Okay, so we got a couple different stories here, but we're gonna go with this one. All right. So the husband and wife, the white husband and wife, have been charged with assault for the pulling of the firearms on that black mother and that black teen. But we're gonna play this video. Let me pull this video up so you guys can watch right along with your boy Spann. Here we go. Let's see what's going on.
Wants to violate a 15-year-old.
No, I'm asking a question. She's a child.
She bumped into me when I
So
was
she did something wrong. She needs to apologize. If she did
this
something
ignorant
wrong,
woman bumped into a 15-year-old.
Correct.
And you're on camera.
Okay.
You're feeling threatened.
Okay, well, go in.
No, Mom.
I got this.
You're blocking me from getting
No,
my
girl,
No, we weren't. No, we weren't.
No,
No, we weren't. You're ignorant.
Go ahead. No, we will, but you're not going to sit there and violate a 15-year-old.
She's ignorant.
Do it, bitch. Do it. Go ahead. Do it. I want you to do something.
She's very ignorant.
Dumbass bitch. Yeah, I said it. You say something, I'll beat your white ass. I will. Do something. Please put your
something.
hands up.
Do something.
Please.
Who the fuck do you think you guys are?
Who do you think you are?
Your white think you are.
You calling her name?
Yeah.
She did nothing to
Yeah,
I didn't. I didn't. No, you didn't. You're very racist and ignorant.
You're racist because you're calling
No,
her
you bumped it. She bumped into me.
White people racist. Why would you bump into
You
her?
cannot just walk around calling white people racist. This is not that type of world. White people
Why
are
would you
racist.
bump her?
No one's
Why
racist.
would you bump her?
I
Why
care
did you
about
say
you.
sorry?
I care
Why
about
did you say
you,
sorry?
and I'm sorry if you
Why
had
did
an
you say
incident
sorry?
that has made
If you
someone
bumped
make
into
you
her,
feel
why
like
did you
that.
say sorry?
No one is racist.
If you didn't do
I'm
anything, why
sorry
did
if
you do
you
that?
had something like that happen.
Ignorant. Ignorant.
Okay.
Very. Mom, watch.
Get the fuck away from me!
You gonna get on her face.
You better get on my
Get away right now. Get away.
Get the fuck away. Get away. Get the fuck away.
Are you gonna hit? You gonna shoot me?
Get the fuck away.
Oh!
Get away. Call the cops right now. Call them.
Oh!
Call the cops.
Get the fuck away.
Call the cops.
Get away.
She got the gun on me.
Call them
He
now.
in the car. Call him. I'm telling. Get the
Call the cops.
Wow.
Get the license plate.
Get
Get the license plate now. Cause you were never about to hit me with the damn
Don't
car.
you
about to hit
no.
me with the car?
Fucking
Oh, both of y'all put guns on me.
Yeah.
Okay. Call Richard back up to the police. car. Wait till back up here now.
I got it. Don't you fucking jump behind my car.
No, I ain't jumping behind your car.
Don't you fucking come. Mom, stop moving. Stop, Mom. Get the fuck back. Back the fuck up. No, you can't fucking leave. You got all this on video? Yes. No. Mom, stop walking.
Hello, please. Call the police. Can you come back to Chipotle? Call the police. You
They pulled the gun out on her. These white people, they're so racist. They pulled a gun out on my mama, both of them. It was a white lady and a white man.
All right. So, yeah. So here's the thing. Again, when I first saw that incident, the video that I saw, it started with the white woman racking around into the chamber, telling them to get the fuck back, and them talking about her being racist, you know, the pulling out of the, like, and I'm like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And then when I saw this video, it was like, it kind of like totally kind of changed up. It kind of colored a little bit how I perceived those particular, that particular incident. First thing I will say this, that interaction lasted entirely too long, right? I really believe that interaction did not have to last as long as it did. And I honestly feel like this was an instance of someone maybe trying to get a Karen video and this shit going terribly wrong, right? I kind of feel like that. You know, we don't see the bump that instigated this entire, you know, altercation. We don't see any of that. I'm not doubting that it happened. But the escalation of the pulling out of the phones and the arguing and the continuing of the arguing, I thought that was a bit much. I thought when that woman finally did get in her van and her husband got into the van, they should have just pulled the fuck off, right? Just pull the fuck off. Like, essentially, she didn't even need to engage in a discussion with that woman. Once she got into the van, rolled the window up, she didn't even have to like talk about how I'm not racist, this, that, and the other. Just pull the fuck off, man. Like, I don't know, y'all. Sorry that happened. Let's go on about our days. You know what I'm saying? But this is the thing that, like, sometimes when people who carry firearms, sometimes unfortunately they kind of want to like let you know that they got one, and they're not afraid to use it, this, that, and the other. It wasn't as cut and dry as it was made out to be at first. The other part that I thought was interesting was after that white woman had pulled out her firearm and she started talking, you know, she started yelling, almost like kind of pleading and screaming to get the fuck back, get the fuck back. Like, this is something that is very Karen-like, right? Like Karen-like to basically, I'm a white woman under distress. Someone needs to come to my defense and help me with these black people. Like, I saw that. Like, that was like, that was blatant. Excuse me, like the way in which she are, you know, like, get the fuck back. Like, she's doing all of this. And truthfully speaking, after she's pulled the gun, the only thing these women have, or this woman and her daughter have, are their cell phones. They're videotaping this entire exchange. Right. And this kind of goes into something that I believe to be kind of like what's happening now. And we talked about this with the young man who got out of the Amazon van and decided to get on Twitter and decided to get on Instagram and tell, or Facebook Live, whichever live platform he was on, to tell everybody what it was he was doing. I don't know necessarily if you being bumped at a Chipotle on your way in and someone's coming on their way out warranted a video to Twitter and Instagram in an attempt to go viral over another Karen video. I don't know. And I kind of feel like that's what this was, because I believe that the young lady who was videotaping this was 15 years old. I don't know if that particular interaction warranted, like, yo, I'm about to go viral today with this white lady who bumped me at this Chipotle, right? It's fucked up, but I don't think this is as cut and dry as a lot of folks would like make this out to be, right? Now, the other part about this is this white woman's pulling out of that firearm. Again, wrong as shit. Wrong as shit. No reason at all to pull out that firearm. You getting in the van to leave should have been the end of that interaction. That should have been the end of it. Now, yeah, their mama was doing a bit much by being in the back. Like, I gotta go get I gotta videotape the license plate of this woman who bumped into my daughter at the Chipotle. Like, all right, get that, but like, I feel like it was a bit much, and to some degree, that wasn't warranted either. But to come out and escalate that situation with a fucking firearm, both her and her husband came out with firearms against a woman and her daughter over a bump. Someone got bumped at a Chipotle. Now, I don't know what the fuck they putting in the burritos at Chipotle, but I doubt if it was worth any of all of this shit that was going on right here. Right? And so, I hate this. I hate this because there's no real clear answer for this. Like, I can see wrong on both ends. I hate that both sides shit, but I could see how both of them in this interaction were like kind of dead wrong. Like, the escalation of this, like, okay, like a sorry, right? I'm like, I apologize. I didn't mean to bump your daughter or something like that. Like, that could have totally de-escalated the situation whatsoever to the point where we don't even see a firearm. Get it in your car and just rolling the fuck off. Like, man, fuck what they talking about. Could have de-escalated this. Like, you never see these motherfuckers again. But now you're on video with a firearm out. And yeah, like, you know, that's just what it is. And not only that, apparently, them white people done.
You about to lose your job. Get this thing. You about to lose your job. Get this thing. You about to lose your job. Get this thing. You about to lose your job.
They lost their jobs, y'all. Them white people done lost their goddamn jobs as a result of this. So we get this story here. Well, they also were charged with felony assault after the gun was pulled, but they've also lost their jobs. I thought that I had this in my pocket, but I don't. So I'm gonna pull this up off my Facebook. Hold on a second while I look for this, because I got a lot of shit happening on Facebook right now. But yeah, they've lost their jobs, man. I believe her husband worked for Oakland University, I believe it is, and they've got rid of this motherfucker. So where is it? Yep, here we go. So yeah, it was Oakland University. We get the story here. This comes out of fox2detroit.com. It says Oakland University has said it has fired the man seen in social media videos this week where his wife pulled a gun on a mom and her daughter following an argument outside of Chipotle in Orion Township. It says the university announced it fired Eric Wunsterberg after he was charged with felonious assault on Thursday. Wunsterberg was the coordinator of Veteran Services Support Services, according to his LinkedIn page, but Oakland University said after seeing the video, the behavior was not acceptable. We have seen the video and we deem his behavior unacceptable. The employee was notified that his employment has been terminated by the university. Wunsterberg, 42, and his wife, Julian, were both charged on Thursday in Oakland County with felonious assault after an argument spun wildly out of control Wednesday evening. The Wunsterbergs were at a Chipotle when they got into an argument with the mother and her daughter outside of the restaurant, according to the Oakland County Sheriff. The two groups got into a heated exchange when Julian Wunsterberg bumped into the mom's daughter as they were entering the restaurant. Apparently, what had happened, there was one common theme between both stories. The three headed inside Chipotle and one woman headed out with her food. There was a bump as they entered and exited. Bouchard said someone felt they needed an apology and it escalated from there. He said it was unclear who the aggressors were. So, yeah, man, they done lost their motherfucking gigs. They've also been charged with felonious assault because they pulled them fucking guns out that they didn't need to pull those guns out for. But at the same time, I'm feeling like, yo, that mom and that daughter weren't exactly fucking. I think they were doing too much, man. I do. I feel like they were doing too much, especially, and I feel like the team, the 15-year-old, because they're in constant this whole social media thing where everything has to go viral, everyone wants their moment. Like, she saw this, maybe, I don't know, this bump, maybe inadvertent bump by this white lady at Chipotle as a reason to be going viral. And that's kind of how that situation escalated. And then the mom being protective of her daughter, like, yo, man, you're going to apologize to my motherfucking kid. And there was some exchanges where I'm just like, man, it ain't that deep. It shouldn't be that deep. And then it turns into this thing where, like, we're all talking about these people. These people that lost their jobs. They've also been charged with felonious assault. And, you know, it's I don't have any sympathies for this white couple whatsoever. Let me make that clear. However, I do think that this was gassed up. I'm going to just say that. I do think this situation was gassed up. That white couple could have left that entire situation, but they decided that they were going to escalate that situation with the presenting of the firearm. So, yeah, man, it's crazy times living in America in 2020, right? The season finale of this motherfucker is going on strong as hell, but that's in Proud to Be in America, yo. Now, another story that's here in Proud to Be in America, and I thought about leaving this for beer and chicken, but we're going to talk about this here on the Spann Report podcast too, because apparently Nike and FedEx both is saying that the Washington Redskins need to drop the Redskins name altogether.
It's hate on us. You hate on a nigga. I don't understand why you hate on me, nigga.
We don't understand.
Show love, nigga. It don't show nothing. It don't cost nothing to show a nigga love.
All we doing
nigga.
is getting money.
Show a nigga some love, nigga.
Wabbity dabbity.
Niggas out here don't love me, nigga.
Yeah, that was audio of Dan Snyder talking about the calls for the Redskins to drop the name Redskins. But we get this story here. This comes out of CBSSports.com. It says, if you search for Redskins on Nike.com, you will find that all official team gear has been removed from the store. If you go on Twitter or read any national news outlet, you will see that FedEx released a statement indicating that it had asked the team in Washington to change its name. According to a report from Adweek, Nike and FedEx are among a group of corporations, PepsiCo was also included, whose investors wrote them requesting that they end their relationships with the Washington unless the team changes its name. The letters to Nike, FedEx, and PepsiCo were from 87 investment firms and shareholders worth a collective $650 billion.
Ho, brother. Whoa. Now, you got too much dip on your chip.
Yes, indeed. So it says FedEx, for what it's worth, is the name sponsor of the field where Washington plays its games, and its CEO, Frederick Smith, is part owner of the team. As if that weren't enough for one day, Washington is now under more political pressure than ever to change its name, having been a point of contention for a long time, now with groups who think the term Redskin is an offensive racial slur towards the Native American population. The topic has reached its boiling point in the wake of the killing of George Floyd by the Minneapolis Police Department. The officers involved having since been fired and charged with second-degree murder and aiding and abetting second-degree murder. Subsequent protests have fueled changes that include the city removing the statue of George Preston Marshall, the founder of the organization and a staunch opponent of desegregation, from outside of RFK Stadium, in a move praised by Marshall's own granddaughter, Jordan Wright. His current team owner, Dan Snyder, went a step further in agreeing to remove Marshall's name from all official team material and from its ring of honor. But Snyder has thus far stood firm on his position of not changing the team's name. He may not have a choice any longer, however, that is, if he wants to relocate the team to the land where RFK Stadium currently sits. So, here's the thing, man. As we talk about, the season that we are in, and so many different things have been happening with the advent of the defund the police kind of movement going on. We've seen corporate, sponsors decide that they were going to divest their sponsorship from racist organizations, or, no longer sponsor like television shows like, Fox News. One of the big things that Media Matters does is try to shame a lot of corporate sponsors from advertising on particular hosts on Fox News. That's been a thing for a while. we've seen like media conglomerates decided they were going to highlight black voices on, all of their media platforms. Like Hulu has a black voices, black, actors, and like Black Lives Matter segment. I believe Netflix is doing something similar with black lead stars and all these other things. And interestingly enough, a lot of people are talking about like, yo, man, we getting all these things we didn't ask for. What about the shit that really matters? Like, we just really asking for the police to stop killing us. And I'm here to tell you right now, man, I'm willing to accept all this shit. Like, yeah, we can get the police to stop killing us. We can get them to get that. That's cool. But if we can get some of this other shit, that's icing on the cake. So I ain't gonna be mad at all these other things that are happening either. They're gonna highlight black voices. Then damn it, let them highlight the black voices. You know what I'm saying? We can get all of these things. We can get this and that, not necessarily this or that. You know what I'm saying? And so, we've seen like the pressure that a lot of these corporate entities are having to not be associated with racist organizations, racial stereotypes, and this, that, and the third, because the name of the Washington Redskins has been like up for grabs, or better yet, has been up for debate for some time. This owner, Dan Snyder, has been reticent and downright antagonistic to any inkling of the idea of changing the name of the Washington Redskins. He's like, yo, I am not changing the name. And it wasn't until like some $620 billion worth of motherfucking investment was like, yeah, nigga, you might want to rethink that, dog. You might want to rethink that, dog. Because we might just pull out, man. When Nike decides that they're not gonna sell merch with your likeness on it, that hurts, man, because Nike is the official outfit of the NFL. And truthfully speaking, when people want to buy shit, when it comes to like these teams and stuff, I know I'm a big, I'm a big buyer of like, team apparel and stuff. And I like to buy the authentic shit. If you want to buy the authentic shit, you got to fuck with Nike right now on the NFL tip. So if you can't even get yourself a Washington Redskins jersey because Nike like, no, we're not selling this shit. Guess what that means for the Washington Redskins as an organization? They ain't getting no money. Right? Like, yeah, Nike and Nike has like what 31 other teams that they can make money from concerning the NFL. So they're not really worried about you. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, the one of the owners of FedEx, I believe, owns like 10% of the Washington Redskins. So that's money that's being divested. You're also seeing money that, like, if the FedEx decides they want to take their name off of the stadium, that's money also being taken away from that team. If Pepsi no longer decides, Coke could decide they want to go in there, but does Coke really want that smoke? So we're living in a time right now where the added pressure on all of these corporate entities is making it so all of these racial things that have been like pretty much seen as like, well, this is just how things are, ain't flying no more, man. This has been a very interesting time to live in. I don't know if I've ever lived in a time where we've seen this much social change so quickly, right? And I don't know if it's like it can't be just the killing of George Floyd, because we've seen, unfortunately, black men be killed on video before and it not result in these things. But I do believe that like the combined or the cumulative things of seeing George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and hearing about Breonna Taylor and the coronavirus and all of these things that are happening in the country right now is like, yo, shit got us changed, man. Like, and there's that tipping point. We can only take but so much. And I think we're at that tipping point right now. And so, yeah, man, the Washington team is going to change the name. They're going to change the name of that football team down there in Washington, D.C., man. So, yeah, that's been trying to be an American.
That I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Yes, indeed. But y'all know what time it is.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
All right. Our champ of the week this week here at the Spann Report Podcast is none other than, hey, man, the social justice warrior is the champ of the week this week. Again, man. It's been a while since the social justice warrior, TM, has been champ of the week this week, of the week on here on the show. But like, yo, as we talk about all of the things that have been happening in the country, man, with Black Lives Matter, like monuments being erected and, the pressure that has been putting on the current, occupant in the White House, the amount of Confederacy monuments that are being taken down, statues that are being taken down, the amount of attention that is being given to Black talent and Black lives and the Black contribution to the American intelligentsia, everything else, man. Like, to see this level of reverence and love, despite all of the hate and rhetoric against Black lives and Black people, has been a beautiful thing to behold. I don't know how many Black people are actually celebrating the 4th, because they're celebrating the independence of America. They're celebrating the ability to get together and be amongst each other. But like, to see like how much has changed over the course of these last few months concerning the highlighting of Black voices and everything, man, it's been beautiful. And we can only thank and appreciate the contributions of these quote unquote the social justice warrior. Now, I know a lot of times, man, people will try to use the social justice warrior as a derogatory term, but truthfully speaking, man, like, and we got shirts in the Spann Report podcast store, man. I think the social justice warriors are badasses, and whoever thought that was going to be like a slur or or a derogatory name just don't really know what words mean, man. Social justice is a good thing. Being a warrior for that is an amazing and a great thing. And so for whoever thought that was going to be some sort of derogatory term was a dumb motherfucker, man. Real talk, man. So shout out to the social justice warriors who are out here kicking ass, taking names, and getting Black lives to matter in a more effective way, more meaningful way. And man, it's going to be very interesting to see how much more we are able to achieve going forward, man. Let's carry this momentum into the 2020 elections, man. Let's get this orange minister out of the paint. Go ahead, register to vote. Do that, man. And let's get some people in office who can further the things that we need as a community and as a country, man. Real talk. But man, I'm about to get on up out of here. It was a joy talking to y'all here on this 4th of July here in 2020. But of course, before we get on up out of here, I gotta remind you guys how to get in touch with us here at the Spann Report Podcast and let your voice be heard, man. You can go ahead and hit up the hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave us those voicemail messages, and of course, those will be read here live on the show. Played here live on the show and responded to in kind. You can also email us here at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead, leave us those emails, and of course, those emails will get read here and applied to here live on the show. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead and follow me there. Chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. You can also email it. You can go to the website, www.thespannreport.com. You can go there, watch replays of the show. You can vote in the polls when we decide to put those polls up. You can donate to the show as often as you like, as much as you like. And of course, we really do appreciate every dime over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network. You can also hit us up in our store. Get yourself some merch, man. Get yourself a fly t-shirt or a coffee mug or a sports bottle or something like that. We got face masks are in the store as well, man. So in this coronavirus times, man, if you want to fly a job with, you want to rock out with some Spann Report shit, get you a face mask, man. It's kind of dope. It would be dope to see y'all in those, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. But for real, man, so those of you who support us in that way is greatly appreciated. And you can also donate to the show via PayPal and or our Patreon. And shout out to our Patreon patrons. Those are the ones who allow for us to do this show here live the way that we do it. We really appreciate those who do that and contribute in that way. They are the golden circle of the Spann Report Podcast Network, man. Real talk. But it is time for us to roll on up out of here. I will talk to you guys again soon. But until next time, fam, peace.